The Rebbe was in the middle of explaining over here why a Yid be'etzem is not shaykhs to any Aveda because of the source of the neshama. The Rebbe brings down, even though we're talking about that the source is from Caleb. We're talking about the machts of Haneshamas is chitzonius ak, but the Pnimius Keli is connected to the essence of oil, not to the gilui oil, these pastures, but to the essence of oil. And therefore, as the Rebbe will explain, even though that the neshama itself, even the level of yichida that we're talking about over here, comes from the level of chitzonius ak, but it still has a connection with pnimius ak. This will all explain to us why a Yid's neshama be'etzem cannot disconnect because it's rooted in such a high place in godliness, in even though it's chitzoni sak, but it's connected with pnimi sak. Ba'al pize yuvon. So based on this, we can understand the af the af sheshirish haneshomis hu mehakelim oy memachzav haneshomis. Before he mentioned two things. He mentioned kelim, and he also mentioned the machzav haneshomis. Kelim, he said, it's pnimiyas hakelim. Machzav haneshomis versus the machzav hasfiris. Machzav haneshomis shehu chitzonius atk. That's the external of the Adam Kadmon, and the level of Ak is the Chitzonius. So, notwithstanding that it is Kalim and it's Chitzonius Ak, Mikol Mokim, yet the Yois Shepnimius HaKeli Himiyuchedes Im Etzem Ha'ir Kinal. We said that the Pnimius of the Keli is united with the essence of the light, as the Rebbe explained before. Take the chitzonius hakeli, which is for the purpose of hashpa, that connects with the chitzonius, the hispashtus ha'oir. But the pnimius hakeli explains that connects with the etzem ha'oir. So since it's connected with the etzem ha'oir, harehi miyuchedes gam im pnimius ak. That's why it's united, it's tied also to the inner of Adam Kadmon. Not only with the Chitzonius Ak, which is the Machzav HaNeshomis, but the Machzav HaNeshomis is a levush, as he said before, to the Machzav HaSfiris. So therefore, Chitzonius Ak is connected to Pnimius Ak. So he gives an example now in which we find that even though that Pnimius Ak is in a higher madrege than Chitzonius Ak, and yet they're connected. The level of Mila, of Bris Mila, is considered from Pnimius Ak. The level of Shabbos is considered Chitzonius Ak. That's the reason why, for example, we make a bris on Shabbos, right? The bris on Shabbos, because it's on the 8th day. Shabbos is the 7th day. The day of the bris is the 8th day. 8 is higher than Hishtalshalus and is higher than the level of Shabbos. That's why it comes to a bris. Rebbe doesn't say this over here, but that's the halacha, that a bris, will override the Shabbos. Normally, you're not allowed to make a wound on Shabbos, but a bris, you're allowed to because the bris is a higher level. Basically, a bris is considered to be pnimius ak, higher than Shabbos. Shabbos is considered to be chitzonius ak. And because it's chitzonius ak, he explains the Likutei Torah, the Gemara says, how, if God keeps Shabbos, how could he make rain? How does he make wind? It seems like it's carrying on Shabbos into. And he answered him, it's all considered the one reshus by the Eibishter, and therefore it's not carrying. But the Rebbe says, what about all the malachas? The whole Maimer Likutei Torah. But the bottom line is that in Likutei Torah it says that for a bris on the 8th day, it always has to go through one Shabbos. So b'meila, how do we get to the level of bris, which is pnimius ak? If you go first through 7 days, goes through a Shabbos, which is chitzonius ak. So that means that there is a connection from pnimius ak and chitzonius ak. Therefore, even though the neshama is chitzonius ak, it's still connected to pnimius ak. Look inside. Like it says in Likutei Torah, in Dibur Hamaschil Lam Natseach Ala Shminis. In the Maimer, in Parshas Tazria and Likutei Torah, it says, Shahamila hi lemaila me Shabbos. Bris Mila, the circumcision, is higher than Shabbos. The Shabbos who Shivas Yimei Hahekef. Shabbos is the 7 days of the circle. The circle, Sunday, Monday, to 7 days. Shabbos is within its Shabbos, but it's within the 7 days of the cycle. And brings down from the Gemara, Ugeshamim Yerdim b'Shabbos, and rain can come down on Shabbos. And this idea, Shehu Inyan Chitzonius Ak, Adam Kadmon. He's not going into the details, but he says from the Maimer over there, the fact that the rain does come down on Shabbos, and that explains all malachas, as the Alter Rebbe explains there, Shehu Inyan Chitzonius Ak. The bottom line is, what's important to us is to know that the level of Shabbos is considered to be the externality of Adam Kadmon, Chitzonius Ak. Umila, on the other hand, circumcision, Hipnimius Ak, that's considered the inner of Adam Kadmon, Shuhu Lemailo Mishabbos, that is higher than Shabbos. And how do we know that it's higher than Shabbos? I mean, I said before, because you see that you do a bris milah on Shabbos, but he brings down the halacha is that why is the bris on the 8th day, so that you have at least one Shabbos. You have one Shabbos, you always have a Shabbos, because if bris is on the 8th day, the lochein tzorich sheyaber olav Shabbos achas koidem. That's why it's a requirement that you need to at least go over one Shabbos. That means after we have one Shabbos, then you can go to the level of Bris Milah. So you need the Chitzonius Ak, and after that you can go to Primius Ak. So even though Milah is higher than Shabbos, but it's not higher automatically, it's higher when it goes through Shabbos. Hadei yesh lo shaychus l'Shabbos shu chitzonius ach, and still the 8th day debris, even though it's higher than Shabbos, and but it's still, you have to go through. It has a connection to Shabbos, which is chitzonius ach. The al yidei zeh sheyaver olav Shabbos echot shi chitzonius ach. Through the fact that it goes through one Shabbos, which is the external of Adam Kadmon, that has Shabbos. Afsher liyes inyan hamila shehu pnimius ak. So then it's possible to be the idea of the bris, the milah, the circumcision, which is the pnimis Adam Kadmon. So basically, we see that even to get to the level of Adam Kadmon pnimius, you got to go through the chitzonius Adam Kadmon. You got to go through Shabbos in order to get to the idea of bris. Yaver all of Shabbos achas. But basically, it means that we see that the pnimius and the chitzonius Adam Kadmon are connected. So therefore, we're saying that even though the Yidden are essentially from Chitzonius of Adam Kadmon, but still the Keli captures the Etzem Ha'oir, so it's connected also with the Pnimis Adam Kadmon. The Kemoy Kain Yuvon Gam B'Shoirish HaNeshamas. We also understand it also in the root of the Neshamas. The Av Sheshorshom, who Michitzonius Adam Kadmon, although the root of the Neshamas comes from the external Adam Kadmon, Mikomokim Heimi Yuchotim Gam in Primius Adam Kadmon. Still, they are tied to the Primius Adam Kadmon. So the bottom line is we raise the level of the Neshama from Chitzonius, from Kalim of Adam Kadmon to the level of Pnimius Adam Kadmon, that they're united, they're connected to the Pnimius Adam Kadmon. B'meila. So based on this, we understand Masha B'teva, Kol Yisrael, this that it's a nature by all Yidden, She'ene Yochel Liyis Nifrod Melikus, that he cannot be separated from Elikus. Now that we say that the source is Adam Kadmon, Pnimius Adam Kadmon, we understand why a person, a Yid, naturally cannot be separated from godliness. The Lihiyois Sheshorsham Hu Be'atzmus, since the root of the Yid, the Neshama, the Yechida, is in the level of Atzmus, he's sort of similar to him. The Neshama is similar to the Eibush, that's similar to Atzmus. Ube'atzmus ein shum nisinas makoim aleiza inyan levada lekus. In Atzmus, there is no room. It doesn't allow for any space for any matter besides godliness. Atzmus is only Hashem. There's nothing else. Ein levada, as we said before, in the level of Seviv Kolam, in the level of Atzmus, there is no space for anything besides Hashem. And since in the level of Yechida, the Neshama is similar to the Atzmus, so the Neshama doesn't allow for anything outside. Lochein, B'teva Kol Yisrael. That's why it's in the nature of Kol Yisrael, it's in the nature of every Yid. She'eina yochel liyes nifrad. B'shum oifem melikus, under no circumstances can he be separated from godliness, because he is Hashem, he has Hashem in himself, he has Atzmus. B'shum oifem melikus, he cannot be separated from melikus. That explains the first part, that why we say that a Yid has naturally that connection, that it cannot tolerate or it doesn't accept being separated from Elokus. But we said before, it happens in Ruach Shtus. There is a spirit of foolishness that covers up on him and tells him that he's still a Yid, he's still a good Yid. If he would realize that the Aveda separates him, we said, even a Kal Shebekalim gives up his life not to separate it from Hashem, as explained, because a Yid is rooted in Atzmus, and in Atzmus there could be nothing else. So therefore, he naturally wouldn't allow himself to be separated. The problem is that the Ruach Shtus, the spirit of foolishness, covers up, and he tells him, convinces the person that he's still a good yid, even though he doesn't have Veda. Both. This is it. Amnam mitzad haruach shtus shenichnas boy, because of that spirit of shtus, of narishkeit, that enters him. Hare efsher sheyavir aveda. So then it's possible for the person to do an aveda. The inyan haruach shtus. What is the spirit of shtus? How do you get that? Rebbe is explaining the fact that a person is so immersed, is so involved with the physical matters, so that takes away from the person the feeling of godliness. He's so much involved, sunk into Gashmizdika matters. It takes away the sensitivity of the neshama. It blocks over the neshama's feeling of connection to Hashem because of his Gashmizdika involvement. The inyan haruach shtus, the idea of the ruach shtus, who toikef hachemdo betanugim gashmi. It's the force of the lust in physical pleasures. Ubom mizeh, and it comes from that. The strong lust that comes from that lust, the af shahu b'dvarim mutorim, even though it's in permissible matters, he's not eating, or he's not lusting things that are not kosher. He's eating permissible things. He's enjoying, but he's in the taiva of mutardika, physical thing. That is dvarim mutorim. Aval al yidei zeh shahu mushka bazeh, but he's sunk through the fact that he's sunk into the taivas, into the gashmis. Ubefrat is one thing to eat it, but especially hachayis v'hatainuk, the energy, the passion, and the delight that he gets from the gashmis, as the Rebbe writes in Yiddish in the parentheses, der koch und der geschmack, that boiling and taste, meaning this passion and enjoyment, that he has in the physicality. So that investment, or that fact that you are sunk into the gashmis, so that cools you off, calls him off. It takes away from him, as nemt by him too, takes away from him hatam belakus, the taste in godliness. The Rebbe quotes the Zohar, like the Zohar states, the tukfa, the gufa, is chulsha the nishmasa, that the force of body brings a weakness to the soul. And the Rebbe explains now, basically what it means over here, as the Rebbe said, if you're so invested and so immersed in gufnis, in gashmis, in taivas, and physicalities, automatically it takes away and it cools off your involvement in the ruchnius, in spiritual godliness. But the statement itself reads, the force of the body is the weakness of the soul. So the Rebbe cautions, it doesn't literally mean your physical body. On the contrary, the body is supposed to be healthy, and a healthy body helps you serve Hashem. It brings from the Magid and from the Baal Shem Tov that one should not cause discomfort and pain to the body, but help the body. We're talking about the passion and the investment in the taivas, not the physical health, what you need your body to be. It explains. The ein hakavone al toikev haguf kipshutei. We're not talking about literally the force of the body that to have a healthy, strong body. Shari adrabe, because on the contrary, as the Rambam writes, the Rebbe brings it all the time, Hayois haguf bori v'sholim, for the body to be healthy and whole. B'darkei Hashem, this is part of the ways of Hashem, serving Hashem. You do Baal Shem Tov, as we know the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov al Posik. He tries the Posik. So the Posik talks about literally see a donkey belonging to your enemy, and you see that he can't carry the load. You have to help him carry the load. So the Baal Shem Tov says, "Who is this donkey that you see?" Kitira Chamoir. He says, "Kitira Chamoir." You see the Chamoir. What does it mean when you see? He says, "Kasher tistakel bi'iyun toiv." When you're going to look very well, behachomer sholcha. The Chamoir is chomer. That's the same, meaning your materialism. Look at your materialism. What is the materialism of l'cha of a yid? Shu aguf. It's the body. That's the chomer. That's the Chamoir. Is the chomer the body? And when you look well, and you'll understand, Tira, what are you going to discover? What are you going to see? Seinacha. You're going to see that he hates you. He hates the neshama. Shehu soines haneshama. He hates physical, the materialism, hates the soul. Hamizga'ages lelakus v'ruchnis. That yearning for godliness, for spirituality. The oitetira. And further, you're going to see Shehu Reivetz Tachas Masoi. It hates godliness and spirituality. And further, it's kneeling under the load. The Eibishter gave the Guf, the Chomer. He gave you a load of Torah mitzvahs, but the Chomer, the Guf, is lazy and doesn't want to do what the neshama, what the Eibishter wants it to do. Revetz tachas masoyish. No, son HaKadosh Baruch Hu lahaguf. The Eibishter gave the body sheyizdachich al yidei Torah mitzvahs, that it should be refined through Torah mitzvahs. V'aguf misatzil b'kiyuma, but the body is lazy in fulfilling this. He doesn't want that. Revetz tachas masoy. He's kneeling under the weight. He doesn't want to carry it. He doesn't want to do the Torah mitzvahs. He's lazy to fulfill it. So, what does a person think, perhaps? So the Baal Shem Tov explains, "V'ulai yale b'daitcha." Perhaps it'll enter your mind. V'chodalto ma'azevloi. So you're going to stop. You're going to stop. You're not going to help your body. So the body should be able to fulfill its mission. So you're not going to help him fulfill the mission. What are you going to start? What are you going to do? How are you going to get back at the body? You'll torture the body. You'll cause it affliction. Kim taschil b'sigufim. You're going to start with affliction. You're going to torture yourself. You're going to cause yourself discomfort. Lishboid as a chumrius, to break that materialism. That could be a thought. You're going to take that body that is lazy, that doesn't want to do the work, doesn't want to do the Torah mitzvahs, lazy, is kneeling under the laws. So maybe you should break the body. That's not the way the Torah is going to rest. That's not the way. That's ki'im. So the pasuk tells you, teaches the Baal Shem Tov, ozev tazev imay. Help. You should help along with him. You should help the body. Levarid es aguf ulezachechai, to sort the guf out and to refine it. V'loy leshabrei b'sigufim, not to break it by afflicting it, torturing the body. No, that's not the way. So what do we see over here? That when we say tuk for the gufa, we're not talking about having a body, a healthy body doesn't cause you weakness of the neshama, because this is the way we need to have a healthy body. That's from the Baal Shem Tov. And Gam Yodua Mashekosu V'Rav Magid, Also, we know what the Rav Magid, what he writes. As is wird a kleine lechili in guf wird a größer loch in der neshama. When you have a small hole in the body, that creates a big hole in the soul. So, what does it mean? So the Mikol says, so you see, we're not talking about, it's not a negative to have a strong body. Fakert, that's what it should be. The Mikol move on. So from this, we understand that when we say that the force of the body brings weakening to the soul, so from this, we understand, Eina kavona ala guf. We're not talking about the body. The body is supposed to be strong. Ki'im hakavona hu al nefesh hativis. We're talking about the natural soul. Shehatoikev shel hanefesh hativis. Shehu hamoishel boy. The force of the natural soul which dominates him, that pushes him, not the guf, the nefesh hativis, that yearn, that desires, that dominates the person. And he lets himself in this physical pleasures, even though they're permitted matters. Yet that cools off the heat that one needs to have in holiness. And it takes away, it takes away the taste that one needs to have in godliness. So this investment that he lowers himself, lets himself into the physical delights, even though it's permissible, but that takes away the koch, that heat of kedusha that he needs to have in godliness. That's why the pasuk that talks about the future, it says, "V'hishka es nachal hashitim." He will water the nachal hashitim. So you have a nachal. Nachal is water, and shitim is shitim water, meaning water of pleasures. The nachal kipshutai, literally a river, a nachal, a stream. Hu mimayim, that's made out of water. The nachal hashitim, but a stream of shitim, hu bechinas hatanugim hagashmin. Those are the physical delights. Okemoshe kosu kvet kedushas admur maharash. As the Rebbe Marash writes, Kimayim atzmichim kol minei tainuk, that water, they make grow all kinds of delights. The Rebbe brings it down in Tanya. So the afasha litzmicha tzrichim harbe dvorim. Even though for growth you need many things, not just water. Im kol ze iker hatzmicha hu min hamayim. So it's mainly comes from water. So the nachal hashitim is the delights of shtus of gashmi matters. Ba'atam ma shetanugim hagashmim heim shtus. Why is it a foolishness? Why is this a cover? The tanugim gashmim is a shtus. In the levad zois shaharbe tanugim gashmim achrisomora. Besides the fact that many of these physical delights, in the end, it's bitter. That's not. It's a delight for the moment, but the results of those delights are bitter. But hinegam oisom ha'inyonim sheim tainug. But even those matters that are really delightful, gash music, a delightful thing, hada yodua, all the delights that is going to say, this comes basically as a hishtalshalus from the inside, from the digestive stuff, from the malachim. So basically, you're pleasuring yourself when you realize on the digestive stuff that comes from the malachim, who wants to have such pleasure from such matters. Hare Yedua, the Inyan v'chol krovai as Shem Koche. It says, all my insides will praise his holy name. The krovai, what is my inside? Krovai is koi al hamalochim shenikroim b'shem kirvayim. The krovai refers to the angels. The angels are called the inside, the intestines, the digestive. What did they digest? The kemoi shakaravayim heim hamavarim esa eichel min apseilus. Just like the intestines, the inside, they sort out the food from the garbage. V'apseilus nidchel lechutz, and the leftovers gets pushed outside. K'moikein l'maylo. This is also the kervayim, the angels. Yesh malochim hamevarim hashpos hatainug shalamaylo. So there is malochim that they sort out this pleasure that comes, the flow of pleasure that comes from above. Ubifrat hatanugim shel kedusha, especially the tanugim of kedusha that comes to them. That's a pleasure of kedusha, and they flush out some of the bad stuff, the psoilus, mimashu psoilus be'erkam. They, relative to them and their level, which is psoilus, they flush it out. It goes outside. They inherit, or they absorb the good stuff of that tainug, the tainug of godliness, and whatever is their level psoilus, they push outside. So, and what happens? It evolves below. Hatanugim gashmim. From this was created the physical pleasures. Okay, so the pleasures that we have over here is the leftover. It's basically the psoilus from the malachim that they sorted out. They took in the psoilus, and the psoilus came to us. That's why this physical delight is called a shtus. Because what is it? This is really garbage. It's psoilus. So that's why we say Nachal Hashitim, the Gashmis, the Tanugim Gashmi are shtus. Why? That you're delighting of a shtus, because what you're delighting is with psoilus. That's the delight. So that's a narishkeit to be delighting with psoilus. And that's just knowing what the pleasure is, that the pleasure is psoilus. Ubefrat kasher yedeya shal yedei hatanugim gashmim yechser loy hatainug be'elakus, especially when he knows that through his pleasures, physical pleasures, that takes away, he'll be lacking pleasure in godliness. This is a great narishkeit, because not only the chlal, the delights are shtus because they're psoilus, but this substitutes you be lacking because you're invested in gashmis, they get pleasure. You can't have godly pleasures. This is a great foolishness. Because you're exchanging a physical pleasure, which is really psoilus, leftovers, with a godly delight, which is the main tainug. So that's a shtus. The tainug itself is a shtus because it's psoilus, especially that you're exchanging it because the tukva the gufa is chusa the nishma. So the more you're invested in the gashmis, you have less koch. It takes away from your investment in the godliness, and that is a big shtus to go ahead and give up the ruchnis, which is the real delight, for a gashmis, which is a psoilus delight. Zayin. So how come that a person comes like that? He says the person becomes insensitive. Why does he become that shtus? Why does he follow this shtus It's because of the continuous taivas that the person is involved. Automatically, it takes away from his sensitivity, and he comes up with all kinds of reasons that he's still a good yid and everything, as the Rebbe will explain. Zayin, hine asiba l'ruach shtus isa b'mishnah, the reason for the spirit of shtus, the Mishnah explains Be'inyan kisishta ishta, when it talks about one's wife will do the shtus, she will seclude herself, the dinim of soita, and we say that her korban is a korban of barley. And the Mishnah says, why she bring a korban of barley? Most korban minchas are made out of wheat, not barley. Barley is the food of an animal. And the Mishnah said, because she behaved like an animal, which means an animal just follows the instincts, doesn't have any restrictions who they are with. And because she did that, she also gets like a behemoth. He says, Kishem, Shemaseho, Maise behema, Karch Korbana Michael behema. Her actions were acts of a behemoth. Likewise, the korban is a behemoth. We'll see what is a behemoth. A behemoth does things without seichel, just does things instinctively. A behemoth, even by a person, we say is a behemoth when you lack that level of knowledge of godliness and little seichel, a little das, then you won't do it. But if you're acting like a behemoth, meaning without das, that is what brings about to the actions of a behemoth. The reason why a person does this shtus is because he's an animal. He's a behemoth. Because he lacks the das of kedusha. The zuhi hasibo lahachemdo bidvorim hagashmim shu shtus. That is the reason for the lust in physical matter, which is really a shtus. Umitzad zeh yochel litois v'lachshev. And because of this, he can make a mistake and he can think that the Aveda that he does not become separate from Lakus. That's the shtus, and that's his miscalculation. And the reason why he can come to that is, and he can lust the physical gashmi because of the lack, because he's a behemoth, he lacks das. Now, here is saying das is a special part of the intellect. It doesn't mean he doesn't have any brains or he doesn't have any seichel at all. It means he doesn't have that connection. He doesn't have that das. Even though he has understanding. He has the intellect. He understands kedusha, but that's not sufficient. You need the level of das in order to protect you not to be a behemoth. And because we lack today das, because das is important, almost all the souls that are in our generation, they are called the seed of behemoth. The Pasuk Zeraiti, Zera Odin, Zera Behema. There's a Zera Behema, meaning we're all like the seed of a Behema. The Av Sherubam Kikulam. It doesn't mean that we don't have seichel. Majority, almost all, Shayochim Lahasik, Ulahaski Linyone Kedusha Bechlal. We are able to grasp and understand matters of Kedusha. So why are we called Behema? That's the Rebbe is proving, because it's das that you need. It's not enough to have seichel. You need to have das. Why? That's why we're called behemoths in our generation, as Zera Behema, because we lack the level of das. People have the ability to understand Kedusha, Ubefrat, Gedulos Haberi Yisbarach, especially the greatness of the Blessed Creator. The Pisoforim, from the books, there's Sforim, and the person that scribes, that teaches, People have a soga v'avona gedola. They have a grasping and a big understanding. So it's not the issue they don't have an understanding or seichel. So why are we zera behema? And yet they're called the seed of behema. L'shechosar behem chinas hadas v'hargosha benafshim, because they lack the level of das and feeling in their soul. The inyan hadas. What is the idea of das? Like it says in the Tanya, the pasuk says Adam knew his wife Chava. Knew means he became intimate. He connected with his wife. That means when you tie and you connect to the matter, that's the das, the seichel. You know it, and you connect it. You have to connect. The einem is boinen behavore ba'alma. You're not reflecting, just passing by a quick thought. The oz bekal yinotik ma'aseichel. Then very easily you'll be detached from the seichel. Ela shum iskasher bahadover. He ties himself. Liegt in der zach. You're lying in that matter. You're invested in that matter. So that's for one level of das. Well, the maile yoser. So one thing is to reflect, but a higher level in das, inyan hadas u'bechinas hargosha. That's the idea of feeling, shemargish es hadover, that you feel it. But shemargish es hadover b'moicha. Not only do you feel it in your mind, kim shemargish gam belibay. So das means that you also feel it in your heart. That's how much you connect with it. So das is to connect and to feel it. That's the true idea of das. Hatam, as the Rebbe Rashab writes the reason. Masha hakotn eine mechuyev b'mitzvahs. Why is a kotn a minor not mechuyev b'mitzvahs? The av, the masik is hadover al burya. He can understand it fully. B'komakem under bar mitzvahs is called lav bar das. So he's not someone with das. He's not a bar das. Da kavona b'zehu. That what does it mean? He doesn't have das. The einle hargoshe beyoker begoydel hadover. He doesn't have a sense of feeling how precious, how big this matter is. Because he doesn't have that das, that sense, that feeling of the preciousness of Torah mitzvahs, so we can't obligate him. And to put upon him a responsibilities, the mitzvahs say, or the mitzvahs loisase, of a positive mitzvah or prohibition. We can't put it on him because he doesn't have das. He doesn't have that feeling. He may be understanding, he may have a great intellect, but he doesn't have the level of das. As the language we find when it talks about Nidorim and Hegdish, that at a certain age, actually the child can make a neder. So it says, they need to know who are they making a vow, who are they making Kodesh. So they need to have noidrim, they need to be tuned in, they need to feel. Shadir bazahu yoidim dafka over here. Specifically, it's yoidim, level of das, bechinas hargosha. That means to feel. So it's to reflect, to feel, and it says l'mayla yoser hu inyan ha'akora. And even on a higher level, das is the level of recognition. So we talked about reflecting, we talked about feeling, and even in the heart, now it says recognition. Ki hargosha efsher shetiya. To feel, you could have also in an item which is not opened by you. You can still feel it. You don't know, you don't recognize it, but you feel it. We say a heart knows the bitterness of its soul. You know what's bothering you, which means you feel what's bothering you, but you still don't know, you don't recognize it. Sometimes the reason you don't know, you know something is bothering you, but the reason what's bothering you, you don't know. So that's only hargosha. When we talk about recognition, that when it comes openly revealed, Ad shemisames etzlo, until it becomes true by him, ki'ilu roye mamish, as if you actually see it. Ve'ein tzorich rayis v'yichoches al zeh. He doesn't need any evidence, any proofs for it. That is the level of hakoreh. So we need the level of das in order to protect the person. Ve'heder hadas zehu hasiba leruach shtus. If you lack das, that becomes the reason for the spirit of shtus, amachases ala emes, which covers the truth. Umates odom, it tricks the person. Shenidmalo, it appears to him. Shagam kisho oiver al rotzen ha'elyon oidenu b'yahadusei, that even when he is violating the word, the will of the supreme, he's still in his Yiddishkeit. He doesn't get it that he separates from Hashem, and the reason is because he lacks the level of das and the investment in all the gashmis. How do you turn away the ruach shtus lumazeh? You have to go the other extreme through shtus de kedusha, which means the av shebichlal. Said before, the middle way, you have shtus de kedusha, shtus lumazeh. Generally, one should go the middle way. But if you've gone the other direction in shtus de lumazeh, you got to employ shtus de kedusha. The av shebichlal tzorich leches berechem tzoyis. Generally, you go in the middle way. Zehu davke. This is only kasher kol yom of holach behoilach b'derech hayishor. When all of his days he went and he continues to go in the right way. Avol kasher noto. But if you have tilted away from the middle way to the edge of the other side, you've gone the other direction, then you got to tilt and go to the other side. Similar to what we say about Shuva, about Shuva, when you comes to a test and a soyin, eating something what you're not supposed to, what you're not allowed to. So about Shuva should not say, FCO, I can eat this is okay. Uma but I can't help it because my father in hell hasn't decreed that I shouldn't do it. He shouldn't say that. Ki'im tzarich loymar he has to say, I can't. Meaning, you see, somebody who has been on the other side needs to go to the extreme. He can't just say, a tzaddik can say, oh, I can eat this, but you know what? Hashem says no. But about Shuva, who was on the other side, can't say, no, I can eat. He has to say, I can't eat it. About Shuva, siyog miyuchad, because he was about Shuva, he needs a special fence, special siyog, special ukmakenu b'inyan zeh. And likewise is in this matter, since through the foolishness of the other side and the sins, silkos ashchina, they remove the shchina. So in order to have the shchina resting by them, because they went, so you have to go and make a migdash from atzei shitim shtus de kedusha. Shtus de kedusha will offset and take away from the shtus de l'umazeh, and that's the extra that one has to go. Okay, let's leave it over here, and we'll mamshich in Mr. Shem tomorrow. Okay.
Bye. Yep. Bye.